Welcome to a brand new episode of the Michele Tafoya podcast. Please click subscribe. Never miss an episode. Okay. Did you see what happened last weekend in London? I saw it because we had the leader of this movement booked on this show for today's episode. But I think what happened with him and his movement in London was so surprisingly successful and massive that he's just too big for us now. We couldn't reach him to come on. I'm hoping we can reschedule him. But what happened in London over the weekend, I think, was in part fueled by Charlie Kirk's murder, but also by this growing discontent in England, in the UK, about free speech being reined in. When a comedian gets arrested by 5 police officers at Heathrow Airport for a post he made, that's a little dangerous, don't you think? When he has to appear in court to defend a post? Heaven forbid that happens in America, but heaven forbid it happens anywhere, particularly in Europe and the UK. And this is really like our cousins, right? We're so connected with the UK, and the fact that this is happening. The other problem in the UK that this guest, who was supposed to be here, Tommy Robinson, follow him on X. He's lamenting how much immigration has changed the country. Now, this is an issue in the United States as well. So it's something that I think resonates with a lot of people here. And the problem is that you can welcome people into your borders legally, but what you hope is that they share your values, that they're moving into your country, your club, if you will, your place of value. I mean, you wouldn't let people in your house who were there to hurt you, right? You wouldn't let people in your business that don't comport with your values. And why are we letting people in our country that hate us? Well, this is happening in the UK as well. There have been a lot of repercussions for that. So suffice to say that over the weekend in London, and you may or may not have seen it, I watched almost the entire thing on my flight home from New York on X. It got up to like 3-4 million viewers on X. And there were millions there in the streets of London protesting the free speech crackdowns and protesting the immigration and the kind of the negative impact that some of that is having on the UK. Now, here's what's interesting. The mainstream media, so like Sky News and the BBC, said, there were about 100,000 people there. We're going to show you pictures throughout this episode that show how massive this protest was. It was massive. And there were people there who were saying like, je suis Charlie, we are Charlie, holding up pictures of Charlie Kirk. So it was insanely successful. I just was in London a few weeks ago, and I can tell you to assemble that many people in this part of London is unreal. So this was massive, and we're going to show you just how massive was some of the commentary that came out of it. I'm going to start with this. You're going to see here that one of the news channels in Great Britain sort of had to go, we may have misrepresented what this movement was. Because all week leading up to this, Unite the Kingdom was the name of the rally, people were calling it a far-right extremist rally. Well, they had to kind of do an about face on that. Again, for those of you just listening and you're not seeing the pictures, I can tell you there were upwards of 1 million people in the streets in London supporting this rally, in spite of the fact that it was labeled a far-right extremist, anti-Islam. Again, the media is going to use their terms, right? If you're pro England, if you're pro UK culture, now you're anti-Islam. That's what they say. You're anti something. So this is the way the media rolls. But on this particular show, this gentleman had to sort of say, you know what? Maybe we didn't get it right. Let's roll the tape, Misty.
The most alarming aspect of the event was just how normal the vast majority of the marches were. I spent an hour or two amongst them, and my own impression was that they were mostly the sort of people you'd meet in a country pub or in half-time queue for the loo at football or at a concert. There was a sprinkling of black and brown faces, and the event was brought to a close by a gospel group singing Jerusalem. All that must worry the traditional mass parties, Labour and Conservatives, now polling at less than 40% between them. They're draining support to parties like Reform and the Greens. And yet, a man recently out of jail, condemned as an extremist thug by most mainstream media outlets, can rally a demo the size of the entire population of Cambridge or Blackpool. A feat you couldn't imagine either Sir Keir Starmer or Kemi Badenoch pulling off anytime soon. Perhaps the people are sending us all a message. Let's see if anyone at Westminster's listening.
Remarkable that the Labour and Conservative parties, maybe you ought to be a little worried. Tories, Labour, because this Reform Party is growing. We're seeing stuff like this all over the globe, but this was massive. And as he said, Tommy Robinson, who was supposed to be our guest today, a man recently out of prison for free speech violations, by the way, organized this and drew all these people. And he did it with sheer just determination. Social media posted about it. It was noticed by a number of people here in the United States of America as well. Because again, I'm going to keep showing you these pictures and these videos of the size of this crowd. Because it to me, it looked like another royal wedding. That's how many people were talking. I'm going to tell you a secret. One of the fun things about no longer being a professional sports journalist is that I get to do things like Prize Picks. Okay, so this episode is brought to you in part by Prize Picks. You know, we make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Okay, so this week, what am I doing? I'm going to share with you what I'm doing. Patrick Mahomes, more or less than 0.5 pass yards. You only have one choice. I'm going to take more, obviously. What else am I going to do? CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys against Chicago. More or less than 83.5 receiving yards. You know what? I'm going to say less. I am, because I think they're going to defend him. And then Josh Allen versus Miami. More. I only get one choice on that one. Let's pass. Let's go on. Where do I get more? Josh Allen. 27.5 rushing yards, more or less, versus Miami. I'm going to say more. All right, those are my Prize Picks. This is so fun. It's so easy, which is the great part about it. I just went in, found the league I wanted, picked more or less on all of these things. Prize Picks is really simple. Like I said, you pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. And Prize Picks also invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So download the app today, like I have. Use code Michele, and that's Michele, 1 L in Michele, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Michele, Michele, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. So here's an American who chimed in. By the way, if this is far-right racist extremism, you may want to note the identity of this American. Happens to be a black American chiming in, applauding this result in Great Britain. Roll it.
Now, I got to take a moment and give it up to my brothers over there in the UK. Well, my brothers, my sister, my brethren, mandem. I got to give it up to y'all. Y'all have finally figured this thing out. They cannot beat you in numbers. Now, today is, I can't even call it a protest. It's so much bigger than that. It is a showing out of more than 3 million true Brits of all creeds and colors who came together to fight for their damn country. Now, if you don't know some of the things that have been taking place in the UK, I suggest that you inform yourself. They have all but lost their freedoms. Definitely the freedom of speech. That thing has been gone for a while now. But folks have been getting arrested for anything from waving a flag to, proclaiming their love for bacon. But yet here they are, 3 million plus strong in the streets, flooded, ready to take their country back. Shout out to our guy, Tommy Robinson, who has stood his ground throughout the test of damn time. They have tried to put this man behind bars more times than DJT himself. So, salute.
DJT being Donald J. Trump. So yes, this Tommy Robinson, Tommy, you better make good on your commitment. You said you'd be on this show. We're getting you on. It was amazing to watch. And you know what? Quite frankly, maybe Tommy doesn't have a voice today because he was running out of his vocal cords the day of the celebration, the protest, the rally. That guy said about 3 million. Look, the numbers have sort of wavered. Point is, it was a lot of damn people. And yeah, they want their country back. And no, that is not exclusion. That is not what it is come here, but come here to be one of us, not to bring in your own values. Because we fought for this country during World War II. This is our country. We have our values. And really, truly, he talked about freedom of speech. It has been kind of a joke over there. And we showed you one clip weeks and weeks ago on a Wild Card Wednesday of someone praying on a street corner to himself, who was told he could not pray quietly to himself on a street corner. All right. Again, people are going to say this was a white Christian nationalist event. So here's what my understanding of what it means to be a nationalist is to love your nation and to want to live by your nation's values. If you think it was just white, you're wrong. And here's another piece of video, an interview that took place at the scene that shows you that you're wrong.
Look at the ethnic division, and that's my family. I literally just gave him 5 cigarettes. I don't think he could do that. Come on.
Bro, so I got one more question for you. Do you feel like illegal migration into the UK is becoming a big problem?
100%. Really and truly, I think we need to change the system of migration in general. I think anyone that comes to this country, because of whatever reason they need to come to this country, whether it's unsafe or whatever, they need to understand that this country has its own history, its own culture, its own way of life, which is not a problem. Live here, like I am. Respect them. You know what I'm trying to say? But if you're going to come to this country to change it or want them to be submissive to you or, you know what I'm trying to say, just take over, it doesn't matter. You could be white, black, Arab or Asian. Just fuck off. I'm being serious. If you're trying to change this country, fuck off. But if you're gonna be living here and respecting the people here, then no problem. That's how I see it.
I want you to tell me what's unreasonable about that wish. That if you are coming to our country, if you're fleeing from someplace where you feel marginalized or endangered, then you're coming to our country, in this case, the UK or England, to escape that and to, it would seem, assimilate and live in a place where you do feel safe, not in a place. Look, we're seeing it all over the world. Germany, France, England, the United States are having these issues of people coming into their countries and hating them. In Minnesota here, we have a congressional representative, Ilhan Omar, who she came here as a refugee from Somalia. And she hates this country. And she said some reprehensible things about Charlie Kirk, which I'm not even going to replay for you. Again, I think people they labeled this thing going in as racist, as white supremacist, as extremist, as far right. This particular individual says, no, this is not racist. Roll it, Misty.
It's not racist to enjoy where you come from. My family were immigrants. My heritage is not from the United Kingdom, but I'm born here. It's not racist for me to enjoy the UK because it's given me a great future. To me, it's not a protest, more of a festival. People embracing the culture of the UK, come together to unite with each other. No matter your heritage, people showing love to one another.
Yeah, people showing love to one another because we love our country, because we love what our country stands for, because we value the same things. I'm just, I gotta tell you, as I sat on the plane coming home from New York and watching this thing unfold, I was amazed. I was amazed because this is the first time in my memory that I could see the United Kingdom. And there were folks there from New Zealand. There were folks there from Australia, Canada, Scotland, Ireland, that they value certain things that country was built on, and they just want to maintain that. Not to the exclusion of others, but to the exclusion of maybe some ideologies that they don't value, that their country is not based on. I don't see what's far right about that. And apparently neither does this woman. She really gave it to Keir Starmer and to the king. Take a look at her.
What the future of England look like if nothing's changed?
We would have been taken over for sure, erased forever and forgotten. And nobody would even know England was a British country, well-spoken, led by the Queen, led by the King. King, come on, you need to do something. I'm very sorry. When the Queen was alive, respect was there. Can we have the same respect? It's a British country. It's well-spoken. If you can't speak English, get out. The migrants coming with the boats, unfortunately, you come here, you say you want a better life. How about you start sweeping the streets of Britain, learn English, go to school, speak English, and maybe you could be slightly accepted. But because we don't know your background, we don't know where you're coming from, we need to protect our children, we need to also protect the future of this country. It's a sovereign country. Sovereign means queen, king. That means if you can't speak English, get out. There's no better life here. We all work hard, pay your taxes. Those taxes then help the country and leave the children alone. You do this to your women back home. We don't want to know. I'm not British, but I'm telling you, I'm from a British colony. You can't speak English, get out.
I wonder how many people she speaks for. Clearly, quite a few. Look, if you want to come to our country, if you want to join this party, if you want to join this civil society, then look, they've uncovered these, what do we want to call them? These circles of grooming and rape of young children in the United Kingdom, in England specifically, of grooming and raping young girls. And it isn't being done by people who have grown up in Britain. It's being done by immigrants. And to point that out somehow seems to be, unfriendly, unloving, unempathetic, unsympathetic, whatever. I think she speaks for a lot of people. More proof that there was a counter protest. I want to point this out, okay? There was a counter protest by a group that's calls itself, I think, Fight Racism or Against Racism, something like that. They assumed that this Tommy Robinson rally, this Unite the Kingdom rally, was racist. So they had a counter protest. And even they, after their counter protest, had to admit defeat. Look at this piece of tape.
And we've just gotten back from the counter demo against Tommy Robinson. And I think before we go to the lessons, we really have to look at the reality of what this demo was. And that is a pretty humiliating defeat.
Mm-hmm.
if we look at the numbers alone, Tommy Robinson's side seems to have gotten around 1 million, and on our side, lucky if it was 15,000, more likely 10,000. So I think maybe if we just start there, you know, like how did we get here?
I mean, before that, like, we have to be clear about this. Like, our side was completely defeated. Tommy Robinson won hands down without even a fight. You know, the reports are different regarding the numbers, but yeah, the videos show the police said 100,000. It's obvious he had more than that, and our side was totally the counter demo was small, was really tepid, wishy-washy, and what was also surprising is how confident and emboldened the right was, because the demo was attacked at Whitehall, people were trapped, and you know they were ready for showdown.
I think that is so interesting that the counter-protest had to admit defeat. The police who said 100,000 were full of it. You can see for yourself in the video images and the pictures. There were so many people. And again, when I first tuned in on X, because it was live streaming on X, I think when I first tuned in, there were like 400,000 people watching. And I just saw that number keep creeping up above 1 million, above 2 million, above 3 million. And I believe it got even above 4 million at one point while I was watching. That's incredible. I haven't seen anything like it. Maybe you have. I have not. But I'm going to ask Misty to re-rack the very first piece of tape that we showed you, Trevor Phillips of Sky News. The reason I want to play this for you again is now that you have all of this context, now that you've heard all these people speaking about what this rally meant to them, now that you've seen that the counter-protest admitted defeat, now that you see that there were people of all colors, all backgrounds, attending this rally, asking to get their country back, I want to again play this Trevor Phillips Sky News sound so you can understand even what he is acknowledging and the magnitude of this. Let's go ahead and roll that again, Misty.
The most alarming aspect of the event was just how normal the vast majority of the marchers were. I spent an hour or two amongst them, and my own impression was that they were mostly the sort of people you'd meet in a country pub or in half-time queue for the loo at football or at a concert. There was a sprinkling of black and brown faces, and the event was brought to a close by a gospel group singing Jerusalem. All that must worry the traditional mass parties, Labour and Conservatives, now polling at less than 40% between them. They're draining support to parties like Reform and the Greens. And yet, a man recently out of jail, condemned as an extremist thug by most mainstream media outlets, can rally a demo the size of the entire population of Cambridge or Blackpool. A feat you couldn't imagine either Sir Keir Starmer or Kemi Badenoch pulling off anytime soon. Perhaps the people are sending us all a message. Let's see if anyone at Westminster's listening.
Westminster obviously being the home of the government. Not the Queen, that's a separate thing, but the government, the Prime Minister, or the Parliament. So, yeah, are you listening? Because I'll tell you something. It doesn't seem as though people are listening. What Tommy Robinson pulled off there is kind of like, I'll put it in American terms, kind of like a Trump rally. Kind of like a Trump election where a bunch of people stood up and said, you know what? I might not agree with everything this president does or says, but I want change. I want a safe country. I don't want these vast amounts of illegal immigration. There's a distinction between immigration and illegal immigration, right? Let's not forget that. And they want to take their country back. They want to take their country back. It's an amazing thing. I hope Tommy Robinson will keep his promise to me and appear on this show very soon. Because, quite frankly, having seen that, I had this feeling like, is he gonna show? Because this thing was so gigantic. we're experiencing kind of an earthquake worldwide. Things got turned really upside down. And I think in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk and in the wake of this protest, this rally, this celebration, this gathering in London, we're starting to see that people want common sense and they want to live safely and happily with an opportunity to seek out prosperity. And that's what the West, Western countries, need to continue to offer. And if we continue to be overly empathetic, it's what Gad Saad calls suicidal empathy. We don't want to do that to our countries. We don't want to lose our free speech. And we don't want to lose our values. I end every podcast saying, be brave, do good. And I think that Tommy Robinson's an example of that. And so were a lot of people who showed up at his rally, including a number of Americans. So, Tommy, we hope you'll keep your promise and join us another time. We'll see you next time. Hey, you can keep up with the Trump administration when you subscribe to the Trump Report. It's an email that brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. Subscribe today at SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump.